Hello and welcome back to Bicyclelegs and another special episode. These are episodes that don't really fit in with any of my other regular series. Today I'm going to have a little bit of a rant and I'm going to talk about 5 classic bands that I just can't get into. Now I know a lot of other creators have done similar topics and this sort of thing, but I wanted to give my own take on this. And I wanted to talk about 5 bands I've never really talked about on the channel before. And the reason is, as I say, I just can't get into these bands. I don't hate them. I don't think they're terrible. But just for some reason, and for 4 out of 5 of them, I think you'll find that there's a theme running through them. There's just something about them that makes me not be able to really get into their music. Some of these bands are more sort of I can't get into than others, but let's go through them. I've listed the 5 alphabetically. I feel like that's the best way to do it. And the first band I'm going to talk about might have my Australian citizenship revoked when I talk about this band and the fact that I can't get into them, and that is ACDC. You know, considered one of the all-time classic hard rock bands. They've got one of the biggest selling albums of all time with Back in Black. I've just never been able to get into them. Sort of meat and potatoes hard rock, it's just really not my thing. Some of the Bon Scott era stuff is kind of fun. I really can't handle Brian Johnson's voice. Just no. It's screamy and horrible and I don't like it. And I tend to find that a lot of those later albums from Back in Black further on, that sort of whole Brian Johnson era, a lot of those albums sound the same to me. I feel like they had a very strict formula. They were very sort of compact like this. They never sort of strayed outside their boundaries. You know, they've been accused of making the same album over and over again, and I can see that. You know, I really, really can. I'm sorry, Martin Popov. I know they're one of your favorite bands of all time, but I just, yeah. I don't hate them. I don't think they're terrible. I just find a lot of their music a bit boring, to be honest. A bit dull. And as I say, Brian Johnson's sort of screaming vocals, nah, can't get into it. Not at all. The next band I'm going to talk about might surprise a lot of people. Again, I do not hate this band, but I just don't think they're as great as a lot of people say they are. And that is The Doors. You know, Jim Morrison, obviously considered to be an all-time legend, is part of the 27 Club because he died at the age of 27. You know, died around the same time as Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix, you know, so the legend is there. You know, I mean, they had some undeniable hits too and all that sort of thing, but as an artist, the band, I don't know what all the fuss is about. I don't hate them. I think they're okay. I just don't see them as, there's no way I can put them in the same sort of class of all-time greats as the Beatles, the Stones, Pink Floyd, you know, those sorts of bands that they get lumped in with. I don't see it. They're okay. Ray Manzarek is a very good keyboard player. I don't hate Jim Morrison's vocals, so that's the sort of one difference here with these 5 bands, is I don't hate him as a vocalist. I don't think he's a brilliant vocalist, and I certainly don't think he's a brilliant lyricist. I find this whole idea that he was sort of a poet and all this sort of thing overblown. His lyrics are okay, but I don't see anything particularly, you know, brilliant in them. I know a lot of lyricists that I much prefer over Jim Morrison. But again, you know, I don't, you know, people who absolutely adore The Doors, please don't hate me. I don't hate The Doors. They don't do a lot for me, that's all. They're pleasant. If they come on the radio, it's fine by me, but I feel no need to get further into their catalogue. I've listened to all the albums and they're fine, but they just don't turn me on. The next band we're going to talk about is another hard rock band, another, considered all-time classic band, and I really don't know why, and that is Guns N' Roses. I mean, again, Axl Rose's voice is like nails on a chalkboard for me. That first album, Appetite for Destruction, definitely has its moments. It's a quite good album. Everything they did after that, though, I don't see what the fuss is. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, they're both double albums on vinyl, so that's 4 records all up. You might get one decent record out of those 4 records if you took all the good tracks. Maybe. Everything after that, though, I mean, Spaghetti Incident, it's a pretty average covers record. I've heard a lot of better covers records than that. And then it took them, 20 years to make Chinese Democracy, and when that came out, Axl Rose was pretty much the only guy still in the band, and was it worth 20 years wait? I don't think so. It's not a good album. I always hated that song Patience, the acoustic guitars and the whistling and terrible song, horrible, hate it. Out of all these bands, if there was one band I was absolutely going to say I really don't like, it is Guns N' Roses. I'm sorry to anybody in my audience who's a big Guns N' Roses fan, but yeah, I just don't get them at all. Sorry. The next band we're going to talk about is a British band, one of the sort of most successful, if not the most successful in the Britpop movement, and that is Oasis. I know a lot of people are big Oasis fans. I don't really like Oasis. I'm not a big Britpop guy, generally speaking. Britpop's okay. I'd rather listen to Pulp or Blur, Suede, but Oasis, I mean, Liam Gallagher's voice is just horrible. Whoever thought he should be the lead singer of a band? There's a couple of songs that Oasis did that Noel Gallagher does the lead vocal on, and I think he's a better vocalist than Liam. That might be a controversial opinion, but it's how I feel. I think Noel Gallagher wrote some good songs. I think he's very derivative on a lot of that Oasis stuff, though. I mean, he got sued for whatever because he ripped off How Sweet to Be an Idiot by Neil Innes. Love Neil Innes, by the way. Love Bonzo Dog Band and the stuff he did with Monty Python, stuff he did with Eric Idle. If you've never seen Rutland Weekend Television, check it out. It's really, really funny. But getting back to Oasis, yeah, Noel Gallagher wrote some good songs, some not so good songs. I would much prefer it if Noel had sung them rather than Liam. Liam's a terrible singer. I hate him. I don't like him as a frontman either. He stands on stage with his hands behind his back, and I mean, and the whole, Noel and Liam fighting with each other and being shitty in the press and just, being really rude to other artists and all that sort of thing. Big turn off for me. Yeah. I don't hate Oasis, but they really, they're not a band that I would ever really want to listen to and get into. And those later Oasis albums, I don't feel like there's a lot of really good stuff on there at all. So that's 4. The last one is really going to wrinkle some people's opinions, and I'm really sorry for that. This last band, I really should love. And I don't know why. Well, I do have at least one reason I know why. They're a band that really should tick all my boxes as far as inventive music and experimental and out there and all that sort of thing. And I'm sorry to say this, but the band that I'm talking about is Radiohead. I've tried with Radiohead. Lord knows I've tried. I've listened to a number of their albums. I find some of the music really inventive and experimental and, you know, exploring new ground and all that sort of thing. And then I think you know where I'm going with this, considering what I've talked about with a lot of these other bands. Tom York, his voice. I'm sorry, but it's a barrier for me. And I understand that's a me problem. But I just can't take Tom York's voice. I find it whiny. Yeah, I just don't know. If Radiohead had a different lead singer, I think I'd really be into them. I think I would, at very least, I'd be able to give their music more of a chance. Every time I try to listen to Radiohead, they start playing, I start getting interested, and then Tom York opens his mouth, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I want to love Radiohead, I really, really do. And I will keep trying with that band, I promise you that much. But so far, I just can't get past Tom York's voice. And I know, as I said, that's a me problem. I used to have that problem with Bob Dylan. I couldn't listen to Bob Dylan for the longest time because of his voice. And then something clicked. And now I really love Bob Dylan singing. Maybe that'll happen one day with Radiohead and Tom York. Who knows? I will keep trying. But as things stand at the moment, as much as I've tried, I just can't get into Radiohead. Any Radiohead fans out there, if you've got any particular Radiohead tracks you think that I should sort of check out that might change my mind, that sort of thing, please do let me know in the comments, because I really would like to know. Because they're a band, as I say, I really feel like I should be into them. They should be really right up my alley, and for some reason, there's something else apart from Tom York's voice, and I can't put my finger on it. Somehow, I just haven't clicked with Radiohead so far. So if you think there's something that'll flick the switch for me, please do let me know. So there you have it, everyone. That's 5 bands, classic artists that I just can't get into. As I say, I'm not going to say they're 5 bands I hate or anything like that, because maybe with the exception of Guns N' Roses, I really don't like them. But the rest of these bands, I don't hate them. I just can't get into them. I don't collect them, and I have no desire to. So please let me know in the comments. Tell me why you think I'm wrong. Tell me which songs I should be checking out by these bands that are going to change my mind and make me suddenly become big fans of these bands. Please let me know in the comments also, what are your bands that you just can't get into? Classic artists that everybody else loves that just don't do it for you. I'd love to know. Please do like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have everything playlisted, so if you want to have a look at some of my other special episodes, I've got a playlist for those. If you want to see some of my studio albums ranked shows, I've got a playlist for those. And if you want to see my appearances on other people's channels, I also have a playlist for those. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram, Twitter, and a bunch of other places. I also have a dedicated Bicyclelegs Facebook page. Links are all in the doobly-doo. Please do come and give those all a follow and join in the conversation. I'd really love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.